And reference to the Oscars. Three nominated films didn't make the cut for me. Mank, which is directed by David Fincher, and it's a sort of dramatised account of what took place in Hollywood at the time that one Joseph Mankiewicz was writing the script to Citizen Kane. In the lead role is Gary Oldman, and he's extremely good. It's an interesting enough film, mix of possibly of fact and fiction. The characters are well put together. It's in black and white, but it didn't really strike me too much. The same could be said for Minari. This also received nominations for film, and also Lee Isaac Chung had a nomination for directing, and actually an acting nomination as well. This movie is about a Korean family's attempts to integrate into American culture and to accept the cultural expectations, but at the same time hanging on to their own identity. It's pretty slow. Stephen Ewan was nominated for actor. He famously was in the dramatized series The Walking Dead. You might remember him. And third one, Promising Young Woman. I like this movie, starring Carey Mulligan as a sort of a woman who's, to say the least, quite liberated and challenges the male sort of assumption with regard to sexuality, that they're in charge. It's quite a violent film in patches, and it's also very challenging to all you males out there. And so, and one more, Hillbilly Elegy. I watched this. Not a bad movie. Glenn Close is extremely good as in the supporting role, and it's basically about a young man who becomes socially mobile and sort of moves into politics, based on a true story, after a humbling upbringing in the hillbilly Midwest. And it's quite stars, as I say, Glenn Close and Amy Adams as a rather disordered, damaged young woman who's the mother of the main character. So those are the ones that didn't make my top 20. It's about time we got onto that top 20 now. Number 20 is Radioactive. I really enjoyed this film. It was released early in the year, starring Rosamund Pike and Sam Riley. They star as Marie Curie and her husband, and it's a dramatised biography of the innovator Marie Curie, the scientist, the women's rights advocator, and the wife and mother. It's a compelling watch, with Pike giving a 5-star performance, and to quote her, "Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. And now is the time to understand more, so that we may fear less." I really suggest you watch this. It's a historical document, and it also is very dramatic and very emotionally powerful. 19, a smaller movie, an indie sort of movie, never rarely, sometimes always. This is a gripping, emotionally powerful drama about a young girl who gets pregnant after a one-night stand in a conservative town and chooses to have an abortion in New York, as in her own town she needs parental consent. And the parents, of course, are not aware of this unfortunate pregnancy. Highly moving movie. We witness the travel to New York, the problems with money. The girl takes her cousin for moral support. We see the actions in the clinic, and it's extremely powerful, and I thoroughly recommend it. Okay, let's go to number 18 now. This is a mini-series, and its title is Small Acts, directed by Steve McQueen, 12 Years a Slave director, emphasising that social change as well as personal fulfilment comes from connection rather than isolation. The central theme of McQueen's ambitious 5-part anthology deals with the struggles of London's West Indian community against the forces of institutional racism, state repression and police violence. 5 self-contained films set in the sort of 70s, each telling a distinct story about the joys and trials of African Caribbean people trying to make a life for themselves in southwest London. The stories, well, included a black policeman trying to impact on systemic racism within the police force, a West Indian coffee shop constantly facing intimidation from the local police force, plus Mangrove, which dramatises the story of the Mangrove Nine, a group of protesters who fought off trumped-up charges of inciting a riot through collective action. And then we also get Lovers Rock, which immerses us in an adolescent party and the pursuits of those youngsters, taking us to a lively mid-70s reggae house party. And we get also a serious look at how black children were frequently labelled as meeting special needs education for no legitimate educational reason. So all in all, it's a very comprehensive mini-series, and I absolutely enjoyed it thoroughly, and I suggest you watch it. Small Acts, Steve McQueen. 17 then, the big Oscar winner film, directed by Chloe Zhao, Nomadland, which Frances McDormand won the lead actress Oscar, and it was also nominated for adapted screenplay. It looks and feels a bit like a documentary. It takes us on an alternative lifestyle with McDormand, who travels in a beat-up van, which becomes her home after she gets laid off at a factory that she's been working for a long time. She's forced to change, and the economic collapse forces her into this, and she's also quickly made a widow after her husband passes suddenly. She's a sympathetic protagonist, and she turns in a lived-in performance which is entirely authentic. And the cast, mostly real-life figures, add a lot to this script. And Nomadland is engrossing, emotional as it unfolds. And the strengths, aside from McDormand, are the collection of these real-life people experiencing typical issues that life brings to you. No complex plots here, just genuine folk trying to survive the horrors that happen in America are often left untold or unnoticed. That's Nomadland, and it's my number 17. So to 16, this is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, nominated acting performance for the late great Chadwick Boseman. It's an adaptation of an August Wilson's play, loosely based on the real-life blues singer Ma Rainey. It's adapted by screenwriter Ruben Santiago Hudson and directed by George Wolfe. It's set in Chicago in 1927, and the main focus is on a recording session, and we see the tensions rise between Ma Rainey, who's obviously the band leader, and her ambitious horn player, and the white management are turning into a trio, a triangle of stress and tension. The white managers are determined to control the uncontrollable mother of the blues, i.e. Ma Rainey, and the film goes inside the minds of the three that need to become a melting pot of excellence. Ma Rainey engages in a battle of wills with both Irving and her producer over control of her music and the way she records the records. Trumpeter Levy also wants to make his own path, and he is a troublemaker, albeit a brilliant horn player, and this leads to discord amongst the musicians. It's a tremendously good film, and I thoroughly recommend it. So to 15, this is Cherry, based on a semi-autobiographical novel by Nico Walker about a young man from Cleveland. Cherry, played by Tom Holland, who enlists in the army as a medic and leaves with a bad case of post-traumatic stress syndrome after spending a few tours on combat medic duty in Iraq. He returns home. He's a bartender initially, but he gets by on alcohol excess, and he also starts to take prescribed meds to dull the emotional trauma. When his oxycodone runs out, he starts doing heroin, and when no heroin is available, he starts robbing banks. He isn't alone early on. Before the Iraq experience, he meets Emily, they fall in love, and then she relocates to college, leaving both him and her in emotional pain. Iraq follows, and then their relationships rekindle on his return with drastic consequences. The drug addiction impacts both of them, and Emily becomes his wife and even spirals out of control. It's a compelling drama. The scenes in Iraq are particularly disturbing. Great performances, directed by the brothers Anthony and Joe Russo. Give it a watch. 14, this is Resistance. Interesting movie starring Jesse Eisenberg as the renowned fame artist. I think I got that wrong. The famed artist Marcel Marceau, who was a mimic, a very famous one. This is set in Strasbourg in France in 1938. Eisenberg, complete with Charlie Chaplin moustache, a real-life figure who would achieve world renown as that famous mimic. But his life also encompasses his role in the resistance, based on true events, telling how he became a war hero, assisting the French resistance after the Nazi invasion of France, and his secret alliance with Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts in organising to help save the lives of thousands of war orphans. It's got a lot of historical detail, but the major highlight is the lead role. The frightened children are impactful, and his skills as a mime artist comes to the fore. Great little movie. 13, The United States versus Billie Holiday. This is another biopic about the life of Billie Holiday, directed by Lee Daniels and written by Suzanne Laurie Parks. It's a film about the brilliant artist and drug addict Billie Holiday. Movie is graphic about the violence and self-abuse, but also touches on the corrupt role of the FBI infiltrating Billie's inner circle of friends and family in a determined effort to silence her from singing her infamous song Strange Fruit, the song depicting lynching of the African American community, and was viewed by the authorities as an act of political activism in the struggle for civil rights. Andra Day's performance as Billie is absolutely 5-star. It earned her an Oscar nomination, and I thoroughly recommend it. So too, number 12. This is Let Him Go. There's two great central performances in this movie by Kevin Costner and Diane Lane. They're a married couple. He's retired sheriff, and his wife is Margaret. they set out to rescue their grandson from a violent clan led by Leslie Manville's nasty character Blanche. The scenes into the movie when they finally get in to see Blanche are very tense, particularly the dinner table scene. It's gripping and it becomes very contentious, and certainly a movie that I enjoyed. The couple work well together, both a lot of experience as actors, and I give it a go. It's called Let Him Go, and it's my number 12. My final offering, number 11, which is the first part of this double header on the top 20, looking at honourable mentions and the movies 11 to 20. At 11 is Judas and the Black Messiah. It was a nominated film based on the real events that happened when the FBI infiltrated the Black Panther movement in the late 60s and specifically targeted the chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, one Fred Hampton, which led to his assassination in December 1969. Daniel Kaluuya is riveting as Hampton, and he prowls the stage with an inspirational performance as he talks to his audience. His speeches burn with intensity and conviction, and he won the Oscar for supporting actor. The other main characters, Lakeith Stansfield, received a nomination. He's one of the FBI agents, and it was also nominated for original screen, best film, and cinematography and adapted screenplay. Sorry, I've got that wrong. Sorry, original screen. Anyway, that's my number 11, and that's the end of the first half of this appreciation of the top movies for 1920. If I said that wrong, it's 2020.